Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Is this ceiling mic working properly? Yeah? Oh. Hi everyone. Welcome to the New Branders, a new class of retailers. My name is Kristen Glass. I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Trunkist. I'm really glad to be here today. I've had an amazing and fulfilling 20-year career in fashion. I've honestly enjoyed every minute of it. Fashion has kept me on my toes because it's always changing. What's the newest trend? Who's the designer we're all talking about? What collection is the most covetable? Not to dive too deep into my own love/obsession with fashion, but I once bought every piece of the Daryl K's 1996 collection because A, she designed the perfect boot-hugging fit pant that fit my body perfectly. Oh, let me start over, I'm sorry. She designed the boot-cut hipster pant that fit my body perfectly, and B, I was certain I could not live without any other pieces. I was single with a lot of disposable income. My fashion for passion was clearly getting the best of me, and this was long before I had twin daughters to support. So I have a love of fashion, and I've made my career in the fashion industry. Prior to joining Trunkist, I was the global vice president of women's wear design for Tommy Hilfiger. I worked at a number of brands, including Talbot's, Oshkosh, and Urban Outfitters. And over the past 20 years, I've experienced a lot of change firsthand in the industry. In my career, I've seen two trains come through that have thrown the industry for a loop. The first train was the discount department stores. Early in my career, I remember being in a room full of executives that I admired and hearing them all agree that discount stores would never take off. The discount store train blew us by. Initially, discount stores and traditional department stores had different retailing goals in different markets. Discount stores had their start providing customers with high levels of value through low prices through means of operational excellence. The discount store transformed into the discount department store, which grew beyond the niche appeal and into the mass markets. They now own an entirely different position in the marketplace by offering us great value and a broader array of merchandise. Providing the masses the right priced fashion has become the name of the game. Here's a statistic to sort of drive this change train home. According to the Consumer Reports of America's top stores, discount stores had 42% of the overall market retail share in 1997. By 2010, they had 87%. That's double the size in 25 years. Like, who would have thought? The second train was fast fashion. What is fast fashion? The easiest way to remember is the definition of fast fashion is to just put fast in front of every word. Fast manufacturing, fast shipment, and fast customer purchasing. Zara has cracked the formula of fast fashion today with her speed and flexibility and turnaround from design to production and onto the sales floor. Again, I was in a similar room years later after the discount train had blown by with executives I admired and trusted, and the consensus was fast fashion was not possible. It couldn't be maintained. Clearly, as we all know, the fast fashion train has blown by. Today, Zara claims to have pared their development time down to 15 days for some of its collections to hit the floor. That's 15 days from concept to the selling floor. Fast fashion brands are getting new styles on the sales floor faster than the original designers today. I'm now seeing the third train coming down the track, and it's what I like to call the new brander, hence the name of this panel. The new brander is not one, but two new categories consisting of the business itself and the business drivers, because one cannot exist without the other. You have the blogger who has turned into a modern-day retail mogul, and the new platform they use to become this mogul, which takes fast and customization to the next level. If you don't think this is possible, check out Chiara Ferragamo, who many of you might know, of the blog The Blonde Salad. She has 5.6 million Instagram followers and one of the leaders in the blogger turned business in fashion. According to a recent article in WWD, theblondesalad.com and personal appearances by Ferragamo drove more than 2 million in revenues last year and are projected to reach 3.8 million this year. That's a 75% jump of retail. Her branded shoe business, which debuted in 2010, accounts for 75% of her company's nearly 10 million in revenues last year. We're living through an extraordinary period of transformation where disciplines like fashion and technology are converging. Technological advances in the field are driving a wave of innovation into the fashion industry, which until now has been largely untouched by the digital space. In Lawrence Linehan's article, The End of the $1 Billion Fashion Brand, he argues that today's billion-dollar brands are gone. Why? Because the digital platforms that exist today allow brands and new branders to reach and connect with audiences that were previously not possible. To give you an example of this, do you want to design your own custom shoes for your perfect night out? You can go to shoesofprey.com and make your own shoe. Want casual menswear shorts in the style of Ocean Pacific's that's marketed like a bro brand? Check out chubbies.com. Looking for socially conscious brands that sell true cost classics, I personally shop everlane.com. The train is the reason why I moved myself and my family down to Austin to join Trunkist. Trunkist is a cut-to-order digital trunk show platform that offers new opportunity to converge the demand driven by the new brander with the resources necessary for the new brander to actually launch their own apparel brands and to sell digitally. I truly believe this is the next biggest trend in the industry, and I'm really excited about it. I'm thrilled to be here today talking about it. This session is about the opportunities we see for new brands and or new branders to turn the readership into direct consumers. Consumers have discovered that these new brands connect with them more clearly and deeply than any magazine or standard retailer today. These new branders control the conversation, the timing, the experience, and the relationship with their consumers. We're going to talk about how the consumers, which is all of us in this room, are being served in better ways than we've ever been served before. We're going to delve into these digital platforms and how they become game changers in an industry ripe for change, providing new branders the freedom to launch apparel businesses around genuine customer conversations. We're also going to provide insight to the new brander's role in the fashion technology economy. For me, there's never been a more exciting time in the fashion industry. We have an hour, so I was going to invite my guests up here. I'd like to invite Olivia Watson, Matt Sweeney, and Noah Lee to the stage. Olivia is born and raised in Austinite. If you want to, yeah. Come on up. Born and raised in Austinite, she's a journalism grad from UT Austin and previously worked in marketing for Kendra Scott Jewelry, managing the social media and Kendra Scott blog. She now works for Spiceworks in Austin, an Austin-based tech company, by day and runs her fashion blog in addition to Spiceworks. Olivia launched LivyLand.com in June 2014 and now has 65,000 Instagram followers and has worked with major brands such as Kate Spade, Nordstrom, and Free People. Matt Sweeney is the founder and CEO of Fashion X, which currently hosts the premier fashion weeks in Austin, Dallas, and soon to be Houston later this year, I heard you say. Matt's unique insight into live event production combined with brand activations has opened the doors for fashion weeks geared toward the end of the consumer while keeping a focus on young emerging design talent. He's recently dabbled in creating his own clothing line, Every Man by Matt Sweeney, with the help of Trunkist. And finally, Noah Lee, who is one of the co-founders of Sock Club, an Austin-based startup that designs and manufactures American-made socks to serve Sock Club's monthly subscription experience and a broad range of custom clients. Though he's working with textiles now, Noah's background is in finance, most recently having managed equity portfolios at Dimensional Fund Advisors. He's also wrapping up his MBA at University of Texas, which he'll complete this May. Noah combines his business experience with a passion for the American knitting industry to create high-quality knitted socks that delight Sock Club customers around the world. So thank you guys all for joining me. I have some pre-arranged questions that I thought would kind of get the conversation going, but we're open to any questions in the audience as well. So feel free to jot down a note so that you're ready to go. You guys can turn on the mics. They're a green button on the bottom. And Noah, I think I'll start with you. So Noah, for the benefit of the audience in the room who don't know much about Sock Club, maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about your business model and how you see it as to have an advantage to the competition.
Thank you very much. The business model. Thank you for the lovely introduction. If I were going to ask myself that I would be talking in a fashion panel today, 5 years ago, I would have told you I was crazy. So I'm glad we get to start with the business model question. But really, I'll just tell you a quick story about how we started, and that should tell you the story of our business model. One day I was studying for the GMAT, and a really good friend of mine came back from a trip, and he said, I read this Forbes article, and it's about a company called Black Socks, and they had a subscriber base of 25,000 subscribers, and they sent black Italian dress socks. And he goes, this is a marvelous business model. Why don't we just do it with colorful socks? I said, okay. And he was a web developer, and I worked in finance, and 2 months later, he said, I built this website, and I put it up, didn't tell you, but people keep emailing us. We should probably do something with it. And that's how we started the company. He put it up, emailed me at 2 a.m. and said, hey, I put it live. It's on Hacker News. We should probably buy some socks. So we have for the majority of the business, we only manufacture or we only buy our goods after they've been purchased by somebody. So made to order is our model with socks. And what that does is allows you a very efficient way to run a business. Over the course of that time period, we started buying other people's socks curated from other companies, and we were pretty frustrated about, I want the socks in March, I'm at the trade show now, you can't give me the socks until September, October. Why? So then we started saying, well, we want to build our own patterns, we want to own the process, we want to make the socks better. And we started figuring out how to manufacture it. Throughout that process, we said, that's really hard. It's hard to do this made to order. You were talking about 3-week time periods. One of my designers is in this room, and if we wanted to, we could make a design, have it on a machine, and making socks in less than 24 hours. We keep our inventory in design, expertise, yarn, and capacity on machines, and that's how we think about running the business.
So this actually wasn't one of my questions, but I'm curious, do you have your own factories? Or are you vertical?
I would say we're a semi-vertical. By that, we own some machinery, we contract out a lot. It's very hard to convince a manufacturer to buy a bunch of equipment until you have the business, and we are on a growth trajectory where, you know, we can turn those designs very quickly, but to order the right machine to do it could be 3 months or 6 months, or it could be August in Italy and no one works for 30 days.
Right, so clearly your advantage of your competition is that you can make it faster. You've sort of cracked that nut, as I said.
Faster, and we don't think about how cheaply we can make the product. So we, you know, if you were to go make a sock, you can type on Alibaba and say I want a striped sock, and I'm gonna order it from factory X, and they may tell you it's combed cotton. Where's their nylon from? Who does what? We own that process. We know where the farms come from. We know where the bales come from. We know the guy who's spinning it. We know the people who turn it into dyed yarn, and we control that process.
So as part of your story, made is where are your socks made? I'm curious.
North Carolina.
North Carolina, so American made. That's amazing. That's very interesting. I'm wondering though, so your platform, you spoke about it just really briefly with your partnership, or your partner, how do you prefer to acquire customers? I mean, you started on a platform, was your customer base through that platform initially? I know you said you had like responses the next day. How did you reach out to find that customer?
Sure, well the first customers were the subscription platform, and so when we launched the company, that grew naturally. And even to this day, no matter what effort we do, we cannot beat word of mouth and the success you will have with a customer who gets a recommendation from somebody else. So when we started, the subscription kind of builds on itself. You have contact with the customer every month. As we grew, we would search and you would find that Sock of the Month Club started in Miami, or the next sock club started here. There's another sock club in Austin. I've met with the guy who started it a couple years later. And what we said is, this is dangerous because it's a very low entry point to get into. And what we decided is we wanted to move to a platform, and the challenges we faced with making custom socks and how hard it was to do it efficiently and make them well, we basically said, let's stop thinking about it as a subscription. So now we've turned it into, how do we make a user experience for anybody who wants to come to make any sock that they want, and we can do it efficiently and quickly, and we think of the subscription as a client to that. So our job is to deliver an experience and make it easier for anybody to make anything. So now a customer can come to us and say, I need 36 pairs of socks that are custom knit with high quality yarns.
So people can build their own brand through you, essentially.
They can build their own brand, they can
Everyone-
build their own subscription, they can build anything they want. We're just gonna try and make the socks as best we can.
Interesting.
Is it women and men's socks? Like, can you do like your size?
We carry 3 sizes. When we started doing it, we had a big decision. Do you wanna have a women's line or a men's line? And the feedback we got from the customers was, everyone loved the patterns, they just wanted socks that fit right. So anything we make,
Because
we make in all 3 sizes.
Cool.
So lastly, and because understand the customer base, but how are you creating a stock item of what is doing well that you will always run? Like, is there a way that you've read what the customers want from you consistently that you can put an inventory into, so you can build your business with an inventory base, or are you strictly demand driven?
It's a really good question.
That wasn't on the list.
We always have the competition or the thought, what do you do next? You're really good at making socks. Why don't you do what every company wants to do and go after the gorilla in the room and say, how do I get my socks in the retail outlets? In my mind, I think about that and say, if I do that, I'm up against Stance, and I'm up against Happy Socks, and I'm up against those folks. And I think at one point we will be ready to do that, but that's a really hard battle to fight.
Yeah.
So it comes down to your acquisition of customers. We only have so many resources in the office. We only have so many staff, and we focus on what's the best acquisition at that time. And right now, you go into that wholesale model where you carry inventory. There's a cost associated with inventory.
Right.
And so it's either I'm going to manufacture for cheaper or I'm going to deal with that inventory problem. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago where we said, here's the best styles from 2015. These have all sold out of the store. And we said, are we going to remake any of these? And so what we do is look at how do we produce in efficiency less than manage the inventory. So when we do a style, we will set it up, run it, and we can run multiple styles of that, and then we see how they do, and we gather the feedback, and that's going to influence how we maybe service that style if we do it again in the future.
Great. And then we were saying about acquiring customers. Have you found that Facebook or Instagram, like how have you found the majority of your customers that have come to your?
Sure. I mean, word of mouth is by far Google AdWords. We definitely were early and hit a niche market. So search engine optimization is in the user experience on our website are the most important things we do. AdWords is very expensive, but if you can get good at knowing the true lifetime value of your customers and you can really nail down how much you're willing to spend to get a customer, you can do AdWords very well. Facebook we have not had as much success on, but I think we really kind of, just on our personalities of the founders and the original cast of crew, none of us were very good at social media, but we're working on making that better, and that has a lot of value, I think, if we can get better at it.
Right. Okay, so then Olivia, I guess sort of a nice transition to you. So you run a successful blog and you have an impressive engagement and following through social media. First, just to kind of set the tone, I'm curious, what made you decide to pursue this part of your career? And did you have any like breakthrough moment where you're like, I see the possibilities here?
Sorry, I'm really nervous. Gonna go for it. So as she said, I worked at Kindra Scott, and I helped run their social media and their blog as well with another coworker of mine. And so we were on the brand side of the blogosphere. So we were sending product to other bloggers, and I realized all these women were moms. And so ideally in life, I would like to become a mom, but I don't want to work a 9 to 5 and juggle motherhood at the same time. So that was kind of like the pushing point that led me to pursue that. In addition to, like, I think I had the advantage of like already working in social media, and I studied journalism in school, so the writing aspect of that. So it kind of having a fashion blog encompassed like all of what I already enjoyed: fashion, writing, photography, social media, marketing, branding. So it just seemed like it seemed easy, but it's not at all. So I've learned that in the past 2 years. But yes, that's kind of what started everything.
Your part-time job is your full-time job now?
Oh no, it's like, oh my God, I like don't sleep. But yeah, it's great. But I'm doing what I like, so it's good.
Yeah, and you're being
It just
able
is,
to create.
you work really hard, which I say that it looks so easy with all these moms, and then I'm like, holy crap, how do you have kids? My sister has 2 toddlers, and I'm like, I'm dying. I can't imagine having 2 toddlers running different directions and then managing everything you have to do from 7 in the morning until the last Instagram at 8:30 or 9 at night, and you do not turn it off. So, but I love it. It's just a lot more work
It's
than I expected.
all-encompassing,
Yes,
yeah.
all encompassing. Yeah.
So you mentioned Instagram, so you have your blog, you have Instagram, do you do Twitter or Tumblr?
Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. Yeah, with blogging, it's kind of like, so the blog is your bread and butter, generally. I think if you like that aspect of it, which I like writing, so I like to that's like my little sanctuary. I spend time writing, and then I have the photo aspects and the fashion talking as well. But to get people to go to your blog, you have to market that. So you use those tools. You use social media, and I work, and then I use that money to buy clothes or et cetera. So social media it's a free outlet. If you are strategic and you're doing it right, then you can bring a lot of traffic in a more you don't have to pay for that type of way. Facebook, I have paid for ads before, but you're right, it doesn't do a ton.
So did all your traffic initially come through your blogging because you're a writer, or did it come through Instagram and people liking your photos and sharing? And
Instagram has helped immensely, and then also through Instagram, I firmly believe in hashtagging, and there's a whole world of business and strategy behind everything that we do, and just understanding the power of a hashtag. Whenever I first started, I was featured on the Anthropology Instagram within 3 months of starting, and my blog, looking back, is this is embarrassing now, but I'm confident with it now. But through hashtagging Anthropology, they liked one of my photos and then reposted it, and then that grew the following more. So the power of a hashtag, firmly.
So then you got more readers.
Yes, more
that
followers.
came to your Instagram, and
Yes.
then therefore the traffic came to your blog.
Yes. Yeah. So if you you kind of align with certain brands, and then you go buy their products. I mean, that's what you have to do at the beginning. And then you hashtag and you mention and you tag them on your photos, and hopefully they notice you. So yeah.
Are you doing are you sort of monetizing your blog right now?
Yes.
Are you able to bring in sort of advertising and then working co-branding with the
Yes,
Anthropologies
exactly.
and the Kate Spade?
So there's two ways. I think someone was probably going to ask this question because I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
How to monetize on a fashion blog. So there's two ways. There's through affiliate marketing. So I like to think of myself, I am a fashion blogger, but in technical terms, I'm an influencer, just like a Viner or a YouTuber, and that's how they make their living. So within the fashion blogging world, there's the affiliate marketing program. So you can make money off of, if someone buys this, I could make a commission, so there's pay per sale or pay per click. So that's one way, and you have to get accepted into these different programs. And then the other way is through sponsored posts. So if a brand isn't under an affiliate marketing umbrella, they might reach out to you separately and say, hey, I'll pay you X number of dollars to post about my product. And then I think one of the things in blogging that a lot of people, there's has to be an authenticity behind it, because you don't want to say yes to make money even though you don't believe in that brand. So I don't know, there's just different ways to make an income from it. But I think you have to be thoughtful about who you say yes to, otherwise your authenticity and your loyal followers start to be I don't really think she'd wear that because you made $100 off it or whatever it may be.
Have you seen, we hadn't really discussed this earlier, but not to throw it, but have
Oh,
you
you're fine.
seen the shopping landscape change as your blog
Yes.
has grown and as your influence? So
Mhm.
as you bring in brands, have you been able to get feedback that those brands also are getting, as you partner with someone, that they're recognizing the push that's coming from your own blog?
Oh my gosh, yes, definitely. Yes, so I have tons of analytics on my blog, and within my affiliate program, they have to see, if I partner with a brand, they want to see, are they making money off of that? Was that a smart investment on their end? So that's one thing. Sorry, what else did you ask?
Oh no, I was just wondering if you were able to actually, so that as you were partnering with brands or maybe starting your own brand one day, as we're talking about through other platforms, if you feel like the traffic is warranted, so you are influencing your readers.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And also within these affiliate programs, or at least the one that I'm under, where it's pay by sale, the different retailers have different commission scales. So Macy's might be X%, while Nordstrom is X%, and Dillard's or whatever. And so I think a lot of bloggers, because that's how we make money and that's our income as well, is we will start buying from the ones that produce higher commission, because why would I spend as much time on something and not be making as much money as I could be making on it? So I think the retailers who provide the higher commission rates have, it's insane how they've just blown up, because they have this alignment with these bloggers with these massive followings. 5.5 million followers. That
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's just nuts. So yes, absolutely, it has totally changed. And also through the affiliate program that I'm under, you can shop via Instagram, and so these, it's just another reward sale. Yes,
Reward
so it's
sale,
just another avenue to make money for these brands as well, and it's faster. So while you can produce one blog post a day, because it takes 5 hours, plus you had to do the 2 hours to photograph it and go buy the stuff and all that. You can post 4 different outfits in one day on Instagram, make as much money as you would with one blog post. So there's just lots more possibility in the past few years as Instagram has blown up. So yes, Instagram, it's a great avenue. Yeah, right? There's just a lot of like, you learn where it's smart to invest your time, and like if Twitter isn't gonna be the spot, then don't spend your time. It's just with any business aspect, there's a massive business behind it, and I'm learning all of this, which is why I'm telling you now.
No, it's great to share. Do you feel like, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of bloggers in the audiences are people that are interested in this. Do you feel like Austin is a city that you can, I mean,
Yes.
this is sort of a unconventional career anyway.
Yeah,
blogging,
definitely.
But then Austin offers
Yes.
a great,
So I was thinking about this actually. Okay, I feel like, well, one, born and raised in Austin, so I'm like always gonna stand behind it because I love it. But it's become this really trendy, cool city. I feel like it's like what Portland was a few years ago until Portlandia came in and like made fun of it, you know? So until that happens to us, it's this super, I mean, it's like the cool spot to be. So to say, oh, I'm a fashion blogger in Austin sounds a lot cooler than like, I'm a fashion blogger in Midland. Not that Midland is bad, but different, you
you
know?
have the city behind you.
Yeah, the city behind you and the
The
cool
mayor.
factor of the city, to piggyback on that, just like knowing, I mean, the fashion industry here is really small. It's a small network of people, but everyone's very supportive of each other. And I also think the city in general, people are friendly and they're very accepting and they want to see you succeed. And it's these small businesses coming up out of nowhere. Like, and it's a weird, vulnerable thing to start your own business, to push your content out and have people judge you, but then to have a network of people like we do in Austin is really, it's a blessing, honestly. It's really cool.
I've said since I moved here about 3 months ago that I think Austin is a city of hope and joy.
It is.
Like it's a very joyful.
I just got back from New
hopeful
York.
town.
Was that where Tommy Hilfiger was?
I've lived there for 20 years,
Okay.
but yeah. But
Yes.
so
it's so funny because I was
I think
there.
it's the business, the startup, the hope, and the
Yes.
sharing.
And the
it's just
people. It's a more like a calm atmosphere, I guess, not as like high stress.
Right.
Which, I don't know, maybe makes people feel more relaxed and more, I don't know, able to be vulnerable in whatever they're producing or putting out, you know?
It's a good startup community for sure, the hope. Okay, so the Matt, I have a couple for you, or maybe 3. I see it might go off topic here. So you've been in the Austin fashion industry for many years. I think just so everyone here can understand, maybe give us some history on that, and what futures you've seen just in your time, sort of, being involved.
Sure.
in the fashion industry.
Yeah, so Olivia and I are both native Austinites, so there are 2 unicorns in
Yeah.
the
Oh,
room.
yes.
That's right.
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
Yeah, so I got into, so I published a magazine starting in 2004. That was a lifestyle magazine, sort of the kind of cool version, downtown version of probably like Treveza or something, before the entire city had meshed into sort of like one big thing, when we were still really neighborhood driven, which honestly I don't think we are so much anymore. But I got to know a ton of retailers at that time. 2008 hit. Publishing a local magazine was no fun anymore. There was no money in the city. And so at the time, I just needed a job, and I had never worked for a boss, like pretty much in my entire career. Yeah, I've owned my own business since I was 24. So I'm one of those crazy people. So I joke that I'm the most unemployable person in Austin because I would have no idea how to work for anybody. But 2008 hit, and I just needed a job, and I knew kind of the events business, and I could see that brands were starting to put more money into live events. They weren't so interested in kind of old traditional advertising, right? And now, ironically, the old traditional advertising is actually all internet based, which is even funnier. So that was when like people were spending money on banner ads. In 2008, so early 2009, we launched Austin Fashion Week. Started the company in March, and we launched the first one in July. So it was a very, very fast turnaround, and I had no idea if it would work. I had zero fashion background. I just had a marketing and promotions background. So I came at it from, can this be a business, not can this be a fun event where I'm a local designer and seeing if I can promote myself, which is how most regional fashion weeks were working at the time. And actually, frankly, that's still how they work. It really hasn't changed a whole lot. So at the time, though, there was a boutique industry. So we had a fair number of retailers in town. Actually, probably very similar to the number we have now. That number actually has not grown much at all. If anything, it might have actually shrunk a little bit. And I saw this kind of hodgepodge of local designers, and it was everybody from There were 3 or 4 that I would say had legitimate careers as fashion designers. Literally only 3 or 4, and I mean on the apparel side. You gotta remember too, this is like right when Kendra was really starting to kind of have a real brand. She was still doing trunk shows at bars though. It was kind of that world that we were living in. You were seeing some jewelry designers come out of Austin, very rarely on the apparel side. And then you had this kind of hodgepodge of sort of Etsy designers. And Etsy was getting kind of big right around there. So you were seeing some of that kind of like this very fragmented community. And so we started Fashion Week with the idea of if you could sort of create a little pin and hug all the designers, that's what I usually try to say. Like if you could hug them all and put them all in one room together and realize that they're not competitive with each other, and if you got everyone to work together, like could you actually create a fashion community? And it was a pretty big, ridiculous idea at the time. Like in hindsight, it was honestly probably not smart at all. But it kind of worked. Even in that first year, we really got media paying attention. And that was the moment when I realized that Fashion Week shouldn't be about retailers. And I have designers ask me every single year, like, what retailers are going to be in the audience? And I just say to them, you're asking the wrong question. How many Olivias are going to be in the audience is what you should be asking. And so that's how I've seen it grow, is I've seen fashion designers realize that where you live doesn't really matter. They love I encourage them, look, if you like the lifestyle of living in Austin, or if you like the lifestyle of living in Salt Lake City, it doesn't really matter. Wherever you like the lifestyle, you're always a plane trip to New York. Right. And trust me, it's cheaper to live in Austin and travel to New York a couple times a month than it is to live in New York. So it's not a tough sell to keep people here, where in the past I think it used to be. And I call it the Kendra Scott effect, because the moment that Kendra decided to keep, she was the first really big name, right? And the moment it would have been easier for Kendra to go to New York or LA or even Dallas to really run her company. But the moment she decided to commit to Austin, I think it gave a really strong confidence level to anybody in the fashion business that if she can do it here, then I can too.
Right.
And I think that made a huge, huge difference. And now you're seeing it. I mean, that like 3 or 4 successful designers, I mean, honestly, I can't even count anymore how many are still here.
Right. So you use platforms obviously to, advertise and reach out to people about your growing business. What platforms in sort of your neck of the woods has worked best? Is it Instagram, Facebook? I'm trying to find the red thread between all of you guys.
Yeah, it's a combination of all of that.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the email blast. For us, it's just we don't have a business that is so obvious, right? Like I envy like Noah with like, we sell socks, and that's such it's a nuanced story, but it's an easy story to tell. With us, it's like, so we have sponsors, and sponsors pay these big fees, and they want you to drive their cars. But by the way, they're going to try to get you to do that by going to these runway shows where you're also going to be trying to it's a really long story. And I'm kind of making fun of it, but so we find that email really works. Also, I just think that our subscriber base, maybe that's just how we started.
Right.
We're old, we're further kind of, we're a more mature. Yeah, and so that's just sort of how we started way back in like 2008. And so that was the way to do it then, and it was cutting edge at the time. But it's not so much anymore, but it's just what our audience is used to. But all the social media platforms are important. I don't understand why Twitter is important. We keep doing it, but it doesn't really do anything. Like we might even be at like the just reposting kind of mode. Like there's a bunch of people who technically follow this, but I mean the level of engagement is ridiculous. I mean we have something like 8,500 followers or something, and you'll get like 1 favorite on a post, right? So it's just completely useless to me. Instagram is absolutely by far the most engaging that we ever get with our audience. It's also what we find our brands are most interested in. So we don't do any of the affiliate marketing that bloggers do. If we want to do any of that, we would actually partner with a blogger. We view ourselves more as a brand extension and social extension for our sponsors and designers. We very, very almost never charge a fee to just post to Instagram or any of our social. It's usually just packaged as our own kind of bigger package. So we don't monetize our social in the same way that, say, a blogger or even Sock Club would.
And this is sort of a little bit not what we had discussed in conversation, but I was wondering if you could speak to for the crowd at large. So as these designers have been coming in, the young designers that are trying to make it, a lot of them are Austinites, Dallas, Houston, but those are two cities. Do they believe that they can start their own? I mean, in my day, I never would have occurred to me to have done anything on my own. I would have wanted to have the money behind me. But do you feel like they are connecting the dots so they could do what a Noah has done, which is, but larger scale, like create a collection, sell it online, or are they still reverting back to some of the old way and thinking they do need to go to New York or LA?
Yeah, it depends on the designer.
Yeah.
If they come from, it's funny, I almost liken it to if they come out of Parsons or FITM or something like that, they probably had their internship at Tory Burch in New York, and they still have that perspective of, I need to go to New York, I need to get my chops, and by the way, that's totally reasonable, by the way. That's probably in some ways the smart way to do it. It's certainly a less risky way to do it. But I think that the ones who are super business savvy and come at it from a business 101 standpoint, which frankly most designers don't. They come at it from the super creative side. But if they come at it from that business side, they're one of two things. The ones who start a collection, they either come at it from the business side, and you can almost pick them out before they've even started, right? Like, I can see you have talent, and you totally get the business side. I'm gonna back that horse every single time.
Good.
It's the ones who are super talented creatively that, this is the ones that I see fail, are the ones that are super talented creatively and also think they know how to run a business when they don't. Which isn't a bad thing, right? I mean, very rarely do you you just don't learn some of that stuff, and some of it's just school hard knocks.
Right.
And so those are the ones that I think, frankly, should be going to New York, go get the big internship, go work for Zach Posen. And we recommend that, I recommend that to them all the time. Of like, go get your chops there, learn the business, have somebody yell at you a lot, stay up really late and get no credit for your work, right? I mean, like, there's something to that, right? So I think the ones though that really understand the business side, and you can almost see it, they're it's funny, when I watch Shark Tank, you see them ask the question a lot of, are you a business or are you a product? And I kind of think it's a dumb question, because a product can be a business. I mean, you guys are a perfect example of that, right? You're a sock company, which theoretically you might go on to Shark Tank and they would be like, you're just a product. Well, what's the difference? Like, to me, like, if I can turn it into a profitable entity, then let's go.
Right.
And I think that's almost where I see it working in a city like Austin, is I'm seeing the ones that are super successful who just have this super niche of something that they love for whatever reason. And then they just focus on that niche and they just pound that nail down over and over and over again until they get enough people to listen. And it's a lower entry point. It's inexpensive, relatively speaking, and a good marketing brand, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've all been saying sort of the hybrid of sort of the creative with the technology. I mean, really that's what sort of building brands of the future is all about. The person that can see the creative and maybe sees the white space, and then also has the awareness of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have a great business idea, which you were saying earlier, so I thought was kind of funny, the luck was on your side as well. But you got in at a point, you saw something that was essentially white space. So that's exciting. Exciting for a city like Austin, that the white space is available to anyone, really. You can be sitting in any town in your living room. So those are the questions that I had planned. There's a room full of people. I don't know if anyone has any other questions that we can. Okay.
This question is for any of you, really, but specifically for you about the sock industry. At the beginning, you and your partner, did you know everything? Like, did you have the knowledge to start a company to create socks, or how did you go about researching all of that? Did you do it on your own?
I failed a lot. The first time I ever tried to make socks, we we had been live for a couple months. We were ordering socks, and we said we want to go down this mission. So it was pretty early on. This is 2010. iPad had been out for like a year, and one of our reps said, "You should go to this trade show. It's called Magic. It's the biggest trade show." So we got on a plane, went to Las Vegas, showed up at Magic, and we're like, "Where am I?" I don't know if you know what Magic is. It's just a huge, I mean, it's every brand you've ever heard of in the world there, and then there's every manufacturer from everywhere in the world there. So if you want to figure out how to make something, they're all in one place.
Even Buddhism, it's where they all meet.
Yeah.
Market,
And it's in Las
project, this, that, it's probably 20 trade shows all
Representing.
together called Magic. But to get to your point, I was in a hotel room with a friend of mine who spoke Korean at the firm I worked at, and I gave him my iPad and I took my MacBook, and he was sitting in a room and we had a 3-hour-long conversation about how to make socks in Korea. I came back from that and said, "This is crazy. I grew up in North Carolina. I can point at old hosiery mills." Got on a plane and went to North Carolina. You just do it. I've got a crate full of socks from where we started. To talk to you, people will be like, "Okay, well, as soon as I figure out I'm not going to buy 100,000 pairs of socks," I would just say is you just have to go try. And so that's been what I enjoy about the job the most is I've learned so much about how to make a product or what makes cotton special or anything else that it's just, that's part of the fun.
Sort of reimagining the manufacturing is really what you've done, really. So it was done one way, but through sort of just thinking about it with a new eye, maybe not coming from the fashion world, you basically reimagined the way it could be done.
I did. I mean,
based on mistakes.
It's hard for me to sit back and say I reimagined anything because every time I go and I meet the families and the people who do this, I'm marveled because I've grown up in college towns or where highly educated people are, and the folks who make these products and do this don't have the formal education or don't think about fashion. The people who make it, and they are some of the smartest, most interesting people I've ever met. And then you look at it and you talk to them about the operational. So I always took it from an operational perspective. And when we worked together and said, they would say, "This is the challenge." And I said, "Well, how can I order 100 pairs of socks?" And they would explain the challenge. So I would look at it from that standpoint. How do I get my business to the point that I can do that? And I just looked at American Knitting and said, this is a very mechanically driven product. And we don't need to go overseas. And obviously it's much cheaper. You can go overseas and make it cheaper, but at the end of the day, if you were really good at creating who you are and your story, you can ask for the little bit of extra money, and people are happy to pay for it, and you are going to have a better product from it. But again, it's just about trying. And every sock I've sent out to the market, I can tell you something that probably isn't right.
And what I would add to that is, I think your question was essentially, what did you know? And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to get over that in a hurry because the first time you start a business, you realize that everything you learned in college was gone in 5 minutes. Like, I mean, it is done. Like, none of that matters. And sorry for those of you who are spending a ton of money on your education right now. I did too. And it's not that it's not necessary. I think it is. I mean, Noah's getting an MBA right now, so I mean, he clearly values that level of education. But at the same time, ignorance is bliss, and being fairly dumb going in actually has its advantages because you don't have any preconceived notions of what something should be. It's funny, people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, do you go to New York Fashion Week?" I've literally never been. And that's kind of by design because I don't want to know. Like, that's not what we're trying to compete with. It's not what we're trying to be. Like, I fear that if I show up one day that I will see something that will inspire me to be something different than I am. and I know who we are, and we make mistakes all the time. We're 8 years in, and trust me, we still screw it up all the time. So I think that idea, you have to, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and that bone, you just sort of have to get over the analytical side of, do I know enough? Is the business plan right? Because you're gonna scrap it in the first 30 days anyway. You only need it to get your investment capital, and then they're gonna change it all anyway, so it doesn't really matter. All of those things, you gotta be willing to like realize that you're not gonna sleep for a while, not necessarily because you don't have time to sleep, but because you're so stressed out about like where your next paycheck is gonna come from. And there's something to that, right? There's something, you become really, really good at your job when it's all on you.
Yeah.
And I think having that risk taker in you is all of it.
For the first year of blogging, my motto, it was a Tina Fey quote, and it says, say yes and I'll figure it out afterwards. So I think ignorance is bliss 100%, and I feel like walking in so naively into an industry, you're like, oh, this whole world of opportunity, and then you're like, oh, they were rude, I hate this, I did this wrong, but like learning from that makes you stronger and learn more about yourself, and so you'll feel more confident in your decisions later after you learn from those experiences. So I think it's good.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, also being lucky.
Yeah, totally.
Luck, so we said?
Yeah.
All right, first off, thank you all for sharing so much wisdom from your industries. My question is actually for Olivia. So when first starting off in a blog, is there any advice that you can give on finding that community, within, that
City.
industry there, and then also if you can touch on a support system,
Yeah,
because
okay.
you can't do everything on your own.
You will cry all
We're
the
not an
time.
octopus with so many arms, but
Yeah.
finding people that understand, like, hey, I don't mind getting up early in the morning just to take photos and things like that.
No, definitely. Actually, one of my best friends, she's sitting right behind you, Veronica, she takes a ton of my photos because my time is so limited, so I'm like, do you want to grab dinner? Can you take a picture of my outfit beforehand, and then we'll go to Matt's Rancho or whatever, so God bless her. Anyways, but starting out. So yeah, so when I first started out, no brands looking and like, oh, this girl that has 5 followers, and I didn't, it was all like organic whenever I started. So I actually reached out to a ton of brands or boutiques off of South Congress. Basically anyone that I like super, like Feathers, Eliza Page, and I said, hey, I'll put down my credit card, can I borrow clothes for 2 hours, grab Veronica or my dad or my fiance, and he like hates it now, but so now I got my dad or Veronica. Anyways, to help take my photos, and then I'll bring the clothes back, and then through that, like Feathers was great because if you produce good content, they want to repost it because that's content they don't have to create. So that was really, I think, a really great thing. And in Austin, the community is so small here that people are generally like, oh, sure, you can borrow these clothes for a couple hours, and then you bring them right back. So that's how I got my foot in the door, and I met a ton of people that way, and everyone's so sweet. And so when I go into those stores on Congress, I'm like, oh, I know you, or it's kind of nice. So I'd say that, and then in terms of just starting within the city is smart to do. Also, one of the things when I first started, I reached out to a lot of smaller brands, even outside of the city, like online brands, like, hey, if you gift me a jacket, I'll wear it 3 times or whatever. And then once again, it's all about how you present it. And if you do it if they like what you're doing, they'll reshare you, and then that's how you grow. So it's about, you have to be the negotiator, the networker, the brander, the stylist, the photographer. You have to get all those ducks in a row. But if you do a good job and you produce beautiful content, then they're happy to share it, which helps build your brand. And then in addition to that, the support system. Oh my Lord, Jesus, I have cried like a ridiculous. I have like 5 canker sores in my mouth. So I'm actually part-time at Spiceworks now, which is awesome. So I have like 4 hours more in the day because daylight I take all my photos in natural light. But yeah, so in like creating a support system, you have to have people that they understand how much work goes into it, because I think a lot of people, it looks effortless, but you will spend an unbelievable amount of hours doing something. So to have people that like your true friends that you can call and be like, oh my God, I'm like half dying, and they push you and they say, you're doing an amazing job, like I'm so proud of you, keep it up because there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think like I don't have the means to, like my family can't support me while I try to pursue my dreams, so I'm working you just feel I don't know, you're just gonna have to, you'll just make it work. If you want it bad enough, you'll become obsessed with it and just do it. And then I feel like the people who care about you will see that and like believe in your cause.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll add one thing. All those people that take care of you at the beginning, you just have to remember to take care of them later, once you've made it, right? And the best example I can give you is when we first started, we were building a community. I couldn't afford to pay models, just like everybody else in town, right? And it's still partially that way. And I have people all the time that ask me, well, what's your model budget? And I sometimes I try not to answer the question if I don't have to, but sometimes I will, and they're like, oh my God, you pay what for models? And they're like, you know that girl would work for $50. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm the only person in town who pays models. I'm not the only person in town, but one of the very few in town who pays them. And the reason why is because if we want there to be a model community, somebody's gotta pay for it. And I didn't at the beginning, and we made it work off of their backs, and I'm the first person to admit that. So later, when we can't afford it, I probably overpay them sometimes, but it's worth it because I know what they all did for me a long time ago.
I don't want to add too much, but I would, with the sentiment of hard work, Sock Club's 4 years old, and I worked full-time until this July. So that's working till 2 or 3 a.m., 4 or 5 days a week. And the sentiment to the people in your life, your parents, your siblings, my wife, you can't do that by yourself without a support system. You might, and you could get lucky.
Yeah.
But
Good tripod.
being an entrepreneur or being part of a startup is something that you really have to breathe, and it's not something, you better not really like nice things. Unless you get lucky. And the sentiment of education and that is, it's only as good as you're willing to use it. So I just thought those were all really, really good points, that you have to want it and you have to earn it, and you can't be afraid of failing because you are going to fail.
Okay.
I was just wondering, like, what questions do you guys still have, like, particularly to the people that you're directly sort of in contact with?
Questions
Is that-
about how
Yeah.
they're, about what they're,
What questions are you still trying to answer?
oh, about your businesses, you mean?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an endless list of questions that I'm trying to answer. When's the next time or the right time to hire? Who do you want to bring into your organization? Do you want to take the next step? We were talking about wholesale. For us, it's when do you make those things? I think it's just about every decision. I think Matt had a point that said, you are the end of the line, and any decision the business makes is always on you. And constantly making decisions, I wish I had the answer for so many of those things. I hope that answers your question. Maybe you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it's your baby, those questions never stop, and if they do, then you probably made a serious error somewhere along the way. Or maybe you just hired the right person who
There you
answers them
go.
all. I think for us, we're in a pretty severe growth stage, and the biggest question we're asking right now is do we want investor money? Which is really a complicated issue. When you run something for so long, and I don't know if you guys have investors or not. We have one small one, but it's really sort of like a friendly investor. It wasn't necessarily done for what the return on investment would be. It was done because they liked me. So that one I think is big for us right now. I think, where's our next customer coming from? Why does Cadillac take 4 years to make a decision? I mean, every single day I poke fun at Cadillac. I probably shouldn't say the brand out loud. Actually, they're a really big partner of ours, so I probably can. Things like that, though, I think all of those things are what keep you awake at night. And I don't think it ever goes away. I mean, honestly, if you handed me $100 million tomorrow and said, but you gotta keep running your company, I wouldn't run it any differently. I mean, I just have more money to play with. We might invest it differently, but like I would still work the same number of hours. I don't know that I would know how to do it any differently. Maybe hire really great talent around you, but you'd still be there.
Okay, real quick, I'd say right now my biggest question is like, when do you take the risk of like letting go of your secure job if you're doing the double job thing, which clearly we did? Then at what point do you say, okay, not only do you like believe in what you're doing enough, but that you feel like secure enough that, okay, you can do it, and you might be making a lot less money, but you're like pursuing your passion type of thing. So that's like the one thing I've been wrestling with now. It's like, at what point do you just say, okay, I have to do it, and if not, I'll go work at Nordstrom or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, there's other jobs to get, so you'll have to come to a crossroad at some point to make that jump.
Hello, hi y'all. This is kind of a two-parter for any or all of you. So obviously we're in a town full of incredible tech talent that's focused kind of squarely in software, IT, hardware. So with you guys kind of coming from it with physical products, first, how are you utilizing some of that talent in town or planning to? And then second, what are some like projects or ideas that y'all are kind of juggling or kind of planning right now that may be forcing you to navigate that intersection of physical products and web operations?
Yeah. I would say that that's a good question, but our whole business revolves around that. How do you create a user experience? You know, if you were to ask me, do I sell socks? I'd tell you no, I sell a gift experience. That experience requires a extremely functional UX experience. That customer has to come through and it's got to work. Any of your acquisition strategies that revolve around it, you know, we have to have a really talented design team that works well with a tech team. We use a laundry list of companies you've probably heard of that are tech companies that create platforms. You know, pretty incredible software. I mean, one that is super easy to think about is just general payroll for running a company. You know, when you're running around and you're trying to do sales or trying to find your customers or do that, and you're like, oh, I actually have to pay these people correctly. There could be a company like Gusto, which used to be called Zen Payroll, and that exists. When you go to talk to your accountant and they say, well, you can go and find this, or you find the software that allows you to do it in 5 or 10 minutes in a month, you've got to take a step back and say, that's really cool. And so the Austin community of programmers in that is being in a place where there are so many people that are knowledgeable and you can bounce off ideas and say, okay, what is the cutting edge credit card transaction service that's going to work well with what we're building in our platform? And being able to do that with tech here is super helpful. It's also great to have so many people to do that with.
My fiance he does software development, so he did my website, which is also really helpful to have that just in my apartment with me. Anyways, but yeah, so using your resources, I think too, is good. Anyways, but just for the tech conversation. But I don't sell a product like that, like a tangible product.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the local tech people still don't really get fashion in a general rule. They get it probably from the NOAA side, you know, an online play product. They get that, like own the vertical kind of an idea. For us, I will tell you, when I say the whole, should we go get investment capital, it's fun to pitch people in Austin, actually. It's pretty hilarious what their responses are. They literally look at me like, wait a minute, that's a company? That exists? Like, how do you make money? And you literally have to go all the way back to square one, and you know, your hope is that they can give you somebody in LA who can speak your language.
Okay, we only have time for 2 more questions, and I feel like I don't know how to choose.
Yeah, I want to thank you all for all the insight you're providing us. So I work at Oracle, and I'm really fascinated with the idea. I mean, you talk about like using technology or software to run your business, but how do you see the emergence of like information technology and fashion like coming together? Obviously, we see within the like athletic sphere, we see companies like Under Armour utilizing technology with their fashion. How do you all see fashion and information technology emerging as one?
One of my clients at Spiceworks actually is Seagate, and they provide like hard drives and all that stuff, storage devices. But so they have this like mirrored, small, compact hard drive, and I keep telling them, I'm like, dude, you have to send this to fashion bloggers because like the mainstream girl has no idea what the heck that is. Like I didn't until I worked for Spiceworks and was like enveloped in this world. But so I think if they, and their Seagate is like brilliant at branding to like, they do all the cool like Instagram collage style things for these IT pros that could give a crap about that. But like for the girl that's looking at that, and I'm like, I understand both sides of things. So I think if they make it more accessible to not just directing products towards IT pros or whatever, but so just even like a simple mirrored thing, but imagine that next to a latte with like a cute handbag, and then it's like, hey girls, look, I stored all my photos from Facebook, but bam, they just sold $100 worth of, you know, material. So I think if it's kind of both, like we have to think of that first because they're not in that mentality. So if we had the conversation where they understood that that was an outlet that they could make money off of, then they might be more invested or spend more time thinking of things like that.
Yeah, we actually, we're moving into the business of creating more and more of our own content, right? When you're only a week out of the year, you gotta figure out how to stay relevant for the other 51 weeks. And one of the things we just did, it was really interesting, we're pitching it to Samsung right now. So Samsung has the new VR headsets, which are technically not new, VR's been around forever. But now they're making it more consumer driven. They have no idea how to reach women, right? Like what woman wants to stick that thing on their head? Like mess up their hair,
IT
mess up their
girls.
makeup, IT girls,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But like gamers, right? But they're very few in the fashion business. And so we actually shot a flash fashion show in virtual reality. And it's pretty cool, right? Like now you're in it, you can actually see the clothing from a 360-degree view without actually being at a runway show or in front of that product at all. And I would actually argue that from our perspective, so I can do runway shows, which are a user experience, right? Like that's an event. That's not necessarily about buying and selling clothes. That's about media, that's about Olivia having a great time and having a drink and being introduced to new designers. That's what that's about. This is possibly about a whole new sales channel of this kind of 360-degree view of a runway show. So now you're taking that experience online. It's not the same, but it's different enough that it still feels like a full experience. And then you can also shoot it. We happen to shoot the same thing with drones, and like we just shot everything while we were at it. Like what cool pieces of gadgetry can we use just to do this thing? And next thing you know, like some of the highest traffic stuff you do, because it's new and people aren't used to it, and even without the headset, they can play with it on their phone and they can look and see. And I would actually argue that there will come a time when fashion designers go, wait a minute, it's a hell of a lot cheaper for me to do that. And they can probably even do it through like CGI, right? They may not even have to create the garments if they didn't want to. You know, they could literally do it, make it look like a runway show, and it's all fake, right? It's interesting.
Hi, I own a social media marketing company called Best Markets Media. We office just down the street actually. And I'm here for a very specific client in the fashion e-commerce industry. So I guess my question would be mostly for Noah, but for you as well. Typically when we take on an e-commerce client, because of the conversion rates that tend to go along with email marketing being the highest, search being second to that, Google AdWords, that sort of thing, we tend to kind of base our strategy as kind of a tertiary strategy. We like to be kind of realistic about the influence of Instagram and some of the other social platforms on fashion or on e-commerce in general. When we first met with her, she was kind of almost in tears because she does have this really beautiful brand. She's just having a hard time letting people know about it. We're definitely going with that strategy with me being kind of a tertiary part in the whole puzzle. But is there anything that you would recommend? I know you kind of said some of your social forays were, didn't do very well. Is there anything that I can do on her behalf
disruptive or interesting, you know, that you don't feel like is kind of standard in the fashion world. I mean, we're doing, we're going to do affiliate marketing, we're doing Facebook retargeting. There's a kind of a lot that we're doing, some push marketing on Instagram where we kind of reach out and say, wow, you know, beautiful jacket, look at us. But I don't know if there's anything, any experiences that you guys have had that have just been kind of one-offs that worked really well.
Sure, I'll try and, a lot of the things that have worked well, again, you kind of have them by accident, but I would say, and correct me if I'm not answering the question, happy to talk to you afterward, but it's so hard. I think you're in a really, really hard position because you've got somebody who's extremely passionate about their brand, and then you're trying to actually, you know, go out and convert somebody into that passion. And I think you have to figure out what is it that your client is really bringing to the table that would be hard to get somewhere else, and then create some sort of incentive for them to participate. So, you know, when I think about some of the best marketing that I've ever seen, the first thing that comes to mind is BarkBox. And if you can go to YouTube and you can look at how they really, you know, they tried all sorts of, you can Google it too, about how they tried all sorts of things and failed at marketing a bunch, and then all of a sudden they said, well, how do we get people on YouTube to unveil this package? And we do this with socks too, but you need to find out what the base or the core customer is going to really be excited about, and see if you can't do that. And I think you're 100% right. Start very focused in email marketing. Matt said it. For us, you know, email seems like a simple platform to use, but use your base, because those are the most reactive people. They have your email because they gave it to you. I wish I had a clear thing to tell you, but I would say is you just really want to incentivize behavior on social media and get people involved, and it's really the first or second action. You may not get an impact the first time, so you've also got to get this client to stick with you for a little bit so you can show them conversion.
I'll say it for Olivia because she may not say it for herself. Are you utilizing influencer marketing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of that. I just think that, right, I mean, if you can convert Olivia to loving your brand, whether you're paying her or not, right? I mean, ultimately what you want to be able to do is convert the blogger who is your influencer to actually be a fan, regardless of the check that you're writing them, right? And if you can do that, then she is much more organic in her approach to her 60,000 followers, which are 60,000 a day and are going to be 100,000 six months from now, right? So that to me has been, I think, the most effective from a social media strategy outside of email, utilizing people who are your fans who then have a wide reach. Just their megaphone is just so big.
I think in addition to that, if you don't have, your brand or the brand you're representing doesn't have a marketing budget, but they're willing to gift product, reach out to smaller bloggers, because they're the ones that are so excited and, oh my God, a brand reached out to me, you know, and they'll post about it. Well, like that was me. I posted about things 10 times because, oh my gosh, this brand paid attention to me. So they're really excited, and you might get more bang for your product rather than paying a higher influencer or that has more follower base to do one post, and then it costs this much money, you gave away the product. Just using your resources and thinking like smart about what can you get away with if they don't have a big budget to spend on that. Because I promise, these girls are excited, you know.
And I mean, even if they don't have a big budget to spend, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Olivia, but I mean, my guess is there are plenty of influencers out there. I actually think of my wife as one. She is not a social media person at all, literally does not have a Facebook account. It makes me crazy, people tag me. Doesn't have a Facebook account, but she gets gifted stuff all the time because brands still see her as a social influencer in person. And so there are plenty of opportunities, I think, especially in gifting product, where again, I'm guessing if Olivia loves the brand and you can't afford to pay her for it, doesn't mean she won't necessarily accept the product. And I don't mean that in a she wants
No, not
free
in that
stuff
way.
but in a I'm still gonna wear it because I love this handbag
No,
or
true.
whatever.
If we use it and we like it, then I'm like, oh my god, I literally want to tell people about it. Also, if
Right.
you're really like kind when you reach out to people, like some brands are like, that girl was a little weird. But if you're really sweet, then I'm like, oh my god, I love this girl, and you ask about my day or whatever, and you get a little more personal. Or maybe read one of their blog posts, be like, hey, this was so funny what you said. Like, love your blog. Make it more. Yeah, if you do it, for me that works. I like the more personal approach to it. Maybe some other bloggers don't, but that might be a smart way to do it.
Oh, you don't like the copy paste email
Yeah,
that
right.
clearly came to 500
Somebody
people where
literally
you were in the
put it-
BCC line?
A different name yesterday, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay, that's it. I'm sorry we couldn't go longer. I feel like we have a lot that we could have covered. Thank you all for coming. It was a good showing. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. That was really fun. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Nice to meet you. So how long have you been in? 3 months. Oh, no, sorry. I'm sure.
Okay, and you two,
Yeah, none of this stuff gets so they go to. But yes, I met and started with like really, and then like this was a great. Oh my god, hi! Hi, Allison. Nice to see you. Good to see you too. Yeah. Oh my god, I was so like stuck in.